Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm Aisha Rosalie and welcome to my podcast, The Straight Path. This is a new podcast where I'm going to have inspirational guests, revert stories. I'm going to interview amazing people, amazing Muslims that are successful, that are doing really well in the Ummah, that are doing dawah. For the first episode, I wanted to go over my own revert story in a lot of detail, inshallah. I'm going to tell you guys a lot of very, very deep personal things I haven't spoken about in any other interview, in any other video before. This is going to be a really, really deep look into my life, my story, written by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and why I became Muslim. So up until I was 8 years old, I just had a very normal life. I grew up in a council house. If you don't know what that is, it's like housing for the poorer people in the UK. My mum was a hairdresser. My dad didn't really work. Sometimes he did some carpet fitting, but that was it. That was all he ever did. My older brother passed away when I was 8 years old from alcohol. He got drunk and he got in a fight, and one punch was all it took. It was one punch to the head and he passed away. And that really shaped me a lot. You probably think, what does that have to do with your revert story? But it actually has a lot to do with my revert story, because from that moment onwards, I started searching. I started thinking about death at a young age. I'd never really thought before about what is this life? Why am I here? Life and death, all these kind of things. I mean, I was 8 years old, but his passing made me start thinking about God. And I remember when he passed away, I used to pray in my bed and I used to talk to God. I wasn't religious. I didn't know anything about religion. My family were not religious. But I used to talk to God and I used to always ask God for things, even silly little things like, please, can I have that candy bar or something? I was very confused. I didn't really know where my brother had gone. I remember my family used to give me like little ornaments and stuff and say, oh, your brother's inside this ornament. And I guess I was always very confused because the adults around me were confused. They didn't know. They weren't religious. They didn't believe anything. So they were very confused. So I had this little angel ornament and I was told that my brother's gone into the ornament. And then I had a necklace at one point and my brother was in the necklace and all this stuff. I mean, looking back, it doesn't really make sense, but I was just searching for answers. And I think from then on, I started searching. And my dad also left in the same year. So my family pretty much halved. It went from me, my mum, my brother, my dad to just me, my mum. Because my dad left, he ran away with a 15-year-old girl. That's a really important part of my journey because this girl that he ran away with, she was this kind of what society would call a Barbie girl. She had blonde hair and she dressed in a certain way and she was a certain person and she was that Barbie girl, right? So my dad constantly, he never paid attention to me. He always favored her. So from a young age, I was kind of taught, okay, so if I want to get noticed in this world, I need to be a certain way. I need to look a certain way. So these two things that happened in my childhood were really defining for me in moving forward and what I did for the rest of my life thereon. I was left to ponder a lot. Was it my fault? I was always very shy. Was I not confident enough? Did my dad not like me because I wasn't confident? Did he not like me because I was always very nerdy. I liked books and things. I wasn't into the kind of things my dad was into, like drinking and partying, and I always felt like I never fit in my family. My family, they were all very much into partying and drinking, and my natural fitra, the way I was when I was a kid is I liked covering up. I didn't like showing off. I had very Islamic values when I was a kid. I hated alcohol because of what happened to my brother. I had very Islamic values, but I never realized because I didn't know about Islam. After that age, 8 years old, things just kind of went downhill from there. That's when I really started to become the person that I naturally wasn't. I started to dress differently. I started to be different. I started to go against what was natural for me. And Islam has always been natural for me. Always. Looking back on my childhood and the person I am now, I'm so much more similar to 8-year-old me than I am 14-year-old me, who was so lost. And I just ended up getting more and more lost, going down more and more dark holes. So then I thought, oh, I want to be an actor. It's really sad thinking back to it, because the only reason pretty much why I became an actor, why I wanted to act from when I was 8 years old, I really wanted my dad to one day turn the TV on and see me and wish that he'd been a part of my life. It was like that was the only way I could validate myself, was to kind of, I don't know, revenge in some kind of way. And every decision I made and everything I did in my life from then on was trying to get on that TV, to try and get in front of my dad, who didn't pay attention to me, who abandoned us, who left my mum in financial difficulty beyond belief. My mum had to work like 5 jobs at one point just to keep us afloat. I decided to go to LA. I thought, England is not where it is. London is not where it is. I'm going to go to LA and I'm going to train properly as an actress out there. I want to be a serious actress. So I jetted off to LA and I chased fame. I constantly chased, because I always felt like I wasn't enough. I always felt like what I had wasn't enough. I always needed more. I wanted to be more. I really, really started to lose myself in LA. I really started to become somebody I wasn't. I started to change myself so that people would like me more, so that I could fit in, so I could be that girl on the TV that my dad saw one day. Just so many horrible wounds from my childhood that I had to patch up, and I never even realized I had until I became Muslim. I remember one time I was in a nightclub and my drink got spiked. I was taken to hospital. At that point, it really started to make me think, like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing with my life? But I just really started to lose myself. I started to hang around with the wrong people. And at the end of the day, I can only blame myself, because you can't blame the people you're around. And, you choose to be around those people. And I chose to be around those people. People that didn't care about me, people that just left me in the street. What is the point? Why am I here? I was, 19 years old, 20 years old maybe. And I was just so self-absorbed. Everything was about me. I was always trying to heal my wounds. And when I became Muslim, Islam healed my wounds for me. I didn't have to keep searching for all these damaging things to fill these holes, because Islam just filled the holes. Every single hole inside of me just patched up. Honestly, just like the light of Allah inside of me, it just became so strong that it just healed all those wounds that needed healing so long. But through my chasing fame and chasing the dunya and chasing all this stuff that I thought would make me happy, I ended up homeless. I ended up living in my car with a dog in LA. And I kind of fantasized about that life anyway, because I thought that's what actors do. Actors strive and they go and live in their car for their dream. And I was prepared to live in my car for my dream. So I ended up living in a car that I bought for like $1,000, like a really cheap car that broke down a couple of times. And I actually hit somebody on the freeway on it as well, because it was so bad and the brakes stopped working. And eventually I came back to the UK. Things just started getting even worse. I started developing an eating disorder. I got into personal training and I took things too far. I got a really bad eating disorder. I actually met a girl who was working in Bollywood. And at the time I wasn't really doing much acting. I was doing mostly personal training. So I was kind of desperate to get back into the acting world again. I don't know if you guys know, but a lot of Bollywood films shoot in the UK. So I agreed. I became an extra, so like somebody who stands in the background of Bollywood films. And I did that for a while. And then eventually they started offering me speaking roles, not because I was a good actress, but because I was white and I always played some kind of evil ex trying to ruin the marriage or the relationship of the main characters, like just very cliche characters. So Bollywood kind of taught me that everything is about looks. Everything is about the way you appear. It's very, very superficial. I mean, not all Bollywood, I'm talking about commercial Bollywood films, because there are some good Bollywood films like in the art cinema world, but in the commercial world, it's just about looking good and dancing sexy. And I found myself on set being treated very differently because I was white. So people would be nicer to me or respect me more just because of my skin color. I obviously never experienced that before because I was always living in a place where everyone had white skin. And that's when I realized kind of like the racism that exists. And I really thrived off it. I was like, oh, I'm the gory girl. I'm the white girl. I'm going to really play on this. So that's when I really started to become super self-absorbed, and I started to actually change myself, and I developed an eating disorder. I started wearing a lot more makeup and a lot tinier clothes. So I was trapped in this bubble, like the dunya bubble. Looking back on it as a Muslim, I call it the dunya bubble, where you just don't see anything else that exists. You don't see the children starving in Yemen. You don't see the oppression in Palestine or the Uyghur Muslims. Or you just don't see any of it because you're stuck in this bubble. When I became Muslim, I had to cut off pretty much all of my friends because my friends just don't get me now. And I get them because I used to be like them, but it's just so different. That life that I was living was so different and was so toxic and was so painful. I cried so many times just because somebody said I was ugly, or because somebody said I was fat, or like the pain that caused me. It's actually ridiculous to think about it when you think about the people that are going through real hardship in this world. But what Allah does to you when you're living that kind of life, He makes every minor thing seem like such a big deal. And now I deal with things that are way bigger than those things, and they seem like a minor deal because Allah is really in control of the way you see things. And I hated living that life of constantly on edge, constant anxiety, constant pain, constant, is that person thinking this? Is that person gonna say something bad about me? Constantly changing who I was just to be liked by people. It's such a damaging life. And the thing that Bollywood really, really taught me was to let go of my morals, because if you're working in the Bollywood commercial film industry, you really can't have morals, because when they say to you, dance like this or wear these clothes, you can't say no. And I mean, you can say no, but they make you think that you can't say no, because if you say no, then you're not going to get the part, right? And that was really, really damaging to me. Now, I'm not saying Bollywood is particularly different to the UK or the American film industry. It's just I worked in Bollywood more, so I can talk about it more. I got invited by a lot of actors to places to do things. I went traveling in India, and I worked on a few films while I was out there as well. And a very famous actor who's actually married invited me back to his hotel room. And it's just so icky thinking back to those moments. I just feel like that wasn't me. I feel like this is me. And I feel like I was just trying to be somebody I'm not for so long. And it was so painful, and it hurt so much to constantly have to try and be this thing that I didn't want to be, all stemming back to my childhood of wanting to be this special girl for my dad, of wanting to get attention. Everything that came from that was just this constant, you need to lose your morals if you want to get attention in this world. You need to be a certain way. And I spent so long trying to be a certain way. And alhamdulillah, I'm so glad that I can just be the way I am now, because this is so much more natural for me. But it's not an easy transformation. Now that transformation is where I'm going to move on to right now. So I discovered Islam when I was in Turkey. The reason why I went to Turkey was because I was seeking to get plastic surgery. Now, plastic surgery in Turkey is very cheap. It's very common. So that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to Turkey. I wanted to get plastic surgery. I wanted to be pretty girl and go and work in Bollywood. And I thought, yeah, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. My life's going to be so awesome. I'm going to be so rich. I'm going to be so pretty. And I'm going to be in these Bollywood films. And everyone's going to love me and all this. Allah really took me on a journey. So one day while I was there, I was staying in a hostel and I was really bored. I didn't know what to do. So I looked on Google things to do in Istanbul, and it came up with Blue Mosque. I don't know if you guys have been to Blue Mosque, but it's a very, very, very beautiful mosque in Istanbul. It's massive. It's huge. I hesitated. a lot. I didn't want to go because I thought it's going to be full of Muslims who are going to judge me, who are going to look down on me, I had a lot of misconceptions about Islam and Muslims, but I couldn't really think of anything else to do, so I went anyway. And while I was on my way to the mosque, I stopped at a little shop and I got a hijab, very similar to one I'm wearing now, pretty much the same hijab. It was an easy to wear one. These are super easy to wear. So the lady just gave it to me. You just tie it at the back. It's so simple. I remember going into a Cafe Nero and putting the hijab on and walking out and feeling like a fraud, feeling like, oh no, people are going to think that I'm Muslim, but I'm not. And I kind of felt like I was playing a character at first. So I was kind of walking around with this hijab on. And when I eventually got to the mosque and I went inside, I was so shocked at how beautiful it was. It was just nothing like I imagined. It was so peaceful, and the people there were so kind and accepting. I didn't feel judged, and it was so quiet. Even though there's a lot of tourists in there, it was very quiet. Now, I hadn't had that experience before. I've been in churches where there's a lot of singing and stuff, and I never felt calm. I never felt at peace inside of a church. It was always really cold as well. And I've been in Hindu temples as well. Again, a lot of singing and dancing. It's very loud. A lot of people talking. I didn't feel peace. But inside of this mosque, I felt so much peace. And I never thought of Muslims as peaceful people. I thought of Muslims as what the media says, terrorism, wife beaters, stuff. I hate saying this stuff to you guys because you guys are my family and I love you guys so much, and I feel so attached to all of the Muslim Ummah, more so than any other friend or most of my family members, my blood family members. I feel so attached to you guys, and I hate saying that this is what I thought because I feel like I'm letting you guys down, but this is the opinion that I used to have, and I mean, that's the opinion a lot of people still have, and it's my dream to change that. It's my dream to go out and do dawah, and I wish you guys to help me, and you guys go out and do dawah as well, inshallah. Having good character is the best dawah you can have. So I was really shocked to find so much peace. And while I was inside of the mosque, I had a tasbih in my pocket because I'd seen people in Turkey using them, and I thought they were anxiety beads. So I had a tasbih and I saw other people doing tasbih, and I was like, oh, people are using these anxiety beads inside of the mosque. And I Googled like prayer beads or something, Islam, and it came up what you're supposed to do with Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar. So I started doing that. I remember I would look at my phone and I would read like Subhanallah, and I'd be like Subhanallah, Subhanallah, Subhanallah. And I'd forget every single time. I'd forget what the next one was, and I had to keep reminding myself. I did it over and over again inside the mosque as a non-Muslim. And I felt so peaceful, and I felt so calm, and I felt like I didn't have to put on a show anymore. I didn't have to pretend to be this actress, pretty, whatever it is that I wanted to be. I never really was that person, but it was what I wanted to be. And I felt that facade go, and I felt myself just connect to God and just feel God's presence. And I remember watching people praying and thinking, that's awesome. Like, I wish I could do that. Like, how do people do that? That's really cool. And it made me really want to look into Islam more. And as I was leaving the mosque, I was thinking about picking up a copy of the Quran, but then I didn't. I think shaitan got to me. But as I was leaving the mosque, I was standing between Hagia Sophia and Blue Mosque, and the azan went off. I think it was Asr azan. And it was so beautiful. I remember the sound just engulfing me and just feeling like it was everywhere. Like everywhere in the world was just surrounded by the azan. And I just felt all my worries leave me. And I was like, Alhamdulillah. Well, I didn't say Alhamdulillah because I wasn't Muslim, but I remember thinking that and just feeling grateful. And my phone that was on around 50% battery just randomly died. And I felt a little bit of panic arise, but then I was like, no reason to panic. God is with me. I felt God's presence. And I just walked back to my hostel. I had no idea how to get back. It was an 1.5-hour journey. I had no Google Maps, nothing. I was in a foreign country, didn't speak Turkish. Alhamdulillah, found my way back to the hostel. That was a big moment for me because when I got back for the hostel, I picked up a copy of the English translation of the Quran, And I started reading, and I started reading, and I started reading. And when I came back to the UK, I carried on reading, and lockdown happened. Lockdown is a very important part of my story because lockdown took me away from film sets, took me away from the dunya life, and just made me stay in my home for a while. And alhamdulillah, through staying in my home, it allowed me to learn about the deen. I was watching so many lectures, watching Mufti Menk, I was watching Zakir Naik, I was watching Yasmin Mojahed. I don't know how you say her name. Sorry, astaghfirullah. I was watching so many people online and just learning about Islam. And then I started wearing hijab in public as a non-Muslim, just to see what it felt like. And I remember one time a brother come up to me and he said, "Assalamu alaikum," and I didn't know what to say back. And I just kind of awkwardly smiled and like kind of ran off. And all these like funny moments I had before I was Muslim. I didn't really know any Muslims at the time. So the journey was I was very on my own during that journey. And it was just literally me and Allah in lockdown in my house. My mum was not there because my granny was very unwell, so she was staying with my gran. And I was just very, very isolated. So when I eventually decided to declare my Shahada, it was during lockdown, so it was like peak lockdown time. There was no mosque open, nothing. It was in the middle of Ramadan. I waited because I wanted, one, to finish reading the Quran before I declared my Shahada, and two, I wanted to see what Ramadan was like because I thought I'm probably not going to be able to do it very well. And I really did not think that I had the self-control to do that because I always kind of lacked self-control for most of my life. That I really doubted myself and my abilities for the first Ramadan. And near the end of the first Ramadan, I declared my Shahada by myself in my living room. And I didn't know whether I was saying it correctly or not. So I kept saying it over and over again. And I was crying so much, so I couldn't really get the words out properly. So I just kept saying it over and over and over and over again. And yeah, it's not like the Shahada videos you see on YouTube. It was a very different experience for me. I've been on this journey for maybe 3 years now. I started my YouTube channel like 6 months after becoming Muslim. So I didn't do it straight away. I completely deleted all my social media when I became Muslim. And I just, 6 months later, I was like, I'm going to share my convert story online. And I did. And it just kind of went, just kind of blew up a little bit. And then from there, I just kept making more videos. And since then, I got married, alhamdulillah. I've been traveling with my husband. I've had a child, alhamdulillah. I started an Alamiya program, so I'm learning the Islamic sciences. I have this YouTube channel and I have an Instagram, and I raise money for charity, and I have a hijab business. Alhamdulillah, things have been going good. Yeah, this is the best journey I ever could have asked for. I absolutely love this journey so much. And I love you guys, and I love being around my brothers and sisters, and I love just being able to do this. It's such a dream. It's such a dream. And yeah, this is way better than the life I was chasing before. A life I never could have imagined. I sometimes get people message me from my childhood who I used to go to school with, who see me on like YouTube, or I did like a BBC News thing at one point, and they see me on stuff and they're like, "Oh, like congratulations on becoming Muslim." And it's so random to think that my friends from school would say that, like non-Muslim friends would say, "Oh, congratulations on becoming Muslim," because I don't know, I guess they're just happy that I found what I wanted to be, and I'm just kind of being myself. And I get judged a lot. A lot of people don't like my choice. I get a lot of hate because of it, but you know what? This is who I am, and nobody can change that. And you have to just be yourself authentically. You can't be what other people want you to be because you're never going to please everyone, so it's impossible anyway. So you just got to be who you are, and this is who I am. I love the discipline that Islam gives you. I love the gratitude, the gratitude that I have in my life. I still suffer from anxiety sometimes. It's the only thing that helps me with my anxiety. And I love just constantly searching for goodness, just constantly trying to do the right thing. And I'm not perfect. I'm very unperfect, but it's about trying. It's about niyyah, it's about intention. And alhamdulillah, thinking back to those moments, the time I was just so lost. Part of me feels sad that it took so long for me to become Muslim, but that's qadr, right? That's the way Allah decided it to be. And now every single day I feel so grateful to have Islam in my life, because I've been through a lot of hardship since becoming Muslim, and I wouldn't have it any other way. And I feel so grateful every single day. So if you're Muslim and you're watching this, just feel that gratitude, because you're so lucky, alhamdulillah. But anyway, thank you guys for watching my first podcast. Please like, please subscribe. I've got more to come, inshallah, more amazing guests, way better than this one, inshallah. Thank you for watching. Assalamu alaikum.